Welcome back to Bloom. As we age, we do everything in our power to turn back the clock, to look and feel younger. But what if the future of medicine may emerge from tapping into the power of our cellular health? Joining us today is Greg Macpherson, pharmacist and author of Harnessing the Nine Hallmarks of Aging. Welcome to Bloom, Greg.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on your show.
I'm super excited to talk to you. I know you're waking up early at 5:30 in the morning, coming all the way from New Zealand, so we appreciate you not getting your beauty sleep. But speaking of which, is it possible to hack your DNA so you don't have to feel old as you age?
Yeah, look, it turns out that it's quite likely that we can. In fact, we can, yeah. So we're actually learning now how our DNA is working. We're learning how it's linked to our aging, and we're learning ways to keep it looking good, nice and shiny. And that's actually having a really good impact on how fast we're aging.
So how has your expertise in the pharmacy world given you insights on reversing the aging process?
Yeah, as a pharmacist, you understand it's almost like a lock and key kind of paradigm, if you will, where the body has all sorts of chemicals that make it work and work fine. And as we get older, those don't work so well. And so we've come up with drugs and pharmaceuticals which turn on certain pathways, etc. So the same thing's happening now in the aging process. We're starting to understand that there are certain molecules that you can turn off and on inside our cells. And when you turn them off, for example, it might slow the aging process down just a little bit.
That sounds amazing. So what does testing our DNA tell us besides about our genetics?
You know, recently we've discovered that you've got two ages. You've got something like your chronological age, which we know is the date you're born and how many birthdays you celebrate. But there's also something called our biological age, and this is actually a reflection of how well our cells are working. So you can actually have a biological age which could be quite different than your chronological age, and that's quite an insight. And the beautiful thing about all this is if you do a test and you find that maybe your biological age is a wee bit older, so for example, if I'm 50, but my biological age could be 70, then this means that your cells are acting like a 70-year-old, which is not a great thing, but you can start to do things like exercise and take certain supplements, which can actually bring your biological age back into your 50s, or if you're lucky, even earlier. And that's the sort of thing that's coming now.
I wanted to talk to you about your book. I know you talk about the 9 hallmarks of aging, but what is the top one that you can share with us today?
Absolutely. Look, my favorite is actually about that DNA. I think it's really, really clear that DNA affects how we age. And we've got amazing repair mechanisms that we have when we're young to look after our DNA. Our DNA actually breaks something like 100,000 times a day per cell. So we actually look after it with heaps of repair mechanisms. And so my favorite tip is actually a molecule called hobamine, which comes from Himalayan tartary buckwheat. It's relatively new, but what it does is it comes in and it actually helps support and look after your DNA and protect it from all of the things that are happening to it, like UV pollution, our diet, those sorts of things.
What are the blue zones? I know you talk about that a lot.
Yeah, blue zones are really fascinating. They're 5 areas around the world where people have extraordinary longevity. And so scientists and researchers went in and had a look and said, what are these people doing that the rest of us are not? And they discovered that these people are exercising all the time. They have a plant-based diet, and they do a couple of things with their diet. They never eat until they're full. They have their first meal, their biggest meal is the first meal of the day. And then there's a couple of other things that they do around just making sure they have a really good social networks, because it turns out your friends and family and loved ones can actually add up to 7 years of healthy life to you.
That is really, really fascinating. Now, can all of this be found in your book? Can we learn all about this by buying the book?
You betcha, yeah. So the book is really designed so that as a healthy aging strategy handbook, if you will. So it's all about explaining and exploring what these 9 hallmarks of aging are, and then armed with that understanding, start to give you strategies in your 30s, 40s and 50s and beyond on what you can do with the latest science to actually have a really healthy aging strategy, if you will.
I need to get your book because I'm aging under high definition TV. So the more I can learn, the better. Thanks, Greg. I really appreciate you joining us on Bloom today.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye for now.
All right, bye-bye. And for more information, you can visit the 9hallmarksofaging.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.